Femi Olawale is a political activist and writer for The Independent. Matthew Lesh is head of public policy at the Institute for Economic Affairs. Femi, you go first. Do you think she's standing on by her principles here?
I think that we're dealing with a party that's literally called the Labour Party, and the P&O Ferries fired about 800 people so they could hire people on lower wages. That is the exact opposite of what you would expect a party of workers' rights to ever support. So I think she is right to say what she said. I think it's right that we create a culture in society that looks down on companies that are willing to treat working class people that way. I do understand why Keir Starmer would try and distance himself from those words because he's trying to attract investment. But at the same time, he's also just passed he's trying to get through the employment rights bill, which does ban fire and rehire under circumstances where it's just about firing people so that you can pay different people for less money. So he's kind of giving with one hand, taking with the other in that way.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what you think, Matthew Lesh, whether you think actually, look, sorry, you're in power, you've got to drop all your principles.
Look, it's not about dropping all your principles. It's about being responsible. And I think this is a really important point about the government struggling to some extent with the transition from opposition into government, where your words have a lot more meaning. And when you shoot from the hip, you criticise a potential major investor into the UK economy, that can have an impact. I don't know what the government can expect if a senior minister is saying such critical things about someone who wants to put £1 billion into a major new investment. Maybe that investment is then undermined. And it's worth saying here, this is the view of Prime Minister Keir Starmer or the Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds, who've all distanced themselves from these original remarks. And that's because the UK economy has been struggling precisely because of the lack of private sector investment. And the reason we haven't had the economic growth, the higher wages that we all want, is because we aren't getting that investment. And I think it is the responsible thing to do is do everything you can to try to get that money into the country to get those higher paying and better jobs.
Because that's, I suppose, Matthew's argument comes down to you benefit workers by pandering a little bit to these big companies, Femi.
Well, no, you benefit workers by ensuring that these companies pay workers properly and don't simply fire anybody that's being paid well, and so they can pay people that are pay people on lower wages. You make sure the businesses stay in this country by creating an environment where they want to stay, and that's why Keir Starmer says his priority is economic growth, and that's why he's said that the biggest thing he can do with that is by improving our relationships with the main countries that we trade with, which basically means rejoining the single market, something that Matthew, as a part of the IEA think tank, thoroughly undermined. So in terms of actually improving economic growth, improving investment in the UK, I will not take lectures on this from anybody that supported Brexit, which turned the UK into the only country in Europe that isn't economically integrated into the rest of the continent.
Well, Matthew, you better defend yourself on that.
I mean, ultimately, trade is not just between countries, it's about companies. And it's about getting investment from all over the world. You can say, perhaps because P&O comes from Dubai, it's not good enough for you, Femi, but I think £1 billion investment into the UK economy is something that we should all want and we should all welcome. I mean, it's not
a case of not being good enough. It's a case of that what they did with those workers was pretty disgusting, wasn't it, Matthew?
Well, there's questions about fire and rehire, and it's obviously awful for those workers who lose their job. My understanding is at the time that the risk was that the entire operator could go bust if it wasn't able to change its working practices. That's the risk here.
I have a question about that because Peter Hebblethwaite, the CEO of P&O Ferries in 2023, had a bonus of £183,000 on top of his £325,000 salary. So that he's getting paid at £500,000, and yet they supposedly need to fire people so they can pay working class people less. I would struggle to take that excuse on board.